This is the Uptick Newswire Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube to stay up to date on penny stock news and interviews, public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world, with your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, I'm bringing you a very, very special company. I tell you what, I'm super psyched to have them on their show. We've only had one other mining company this year that has revenues like this company has. Matter of fact, this company has great revenues. We're talking about Anaconda Mining, Inc. They trade on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol ANX. They also trade on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol ANXGF. And with us today is the CEO of that company, going to bring us up to speed, Dustin Angelo. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Give my listeners a little bit of background of where you guys are mining at, and then I want to get into the Q&A.
Sure. So Anaconda Mining, we're a growing Atlantic Canada gold producer. We have two primary geographic centers. We've been mining and producing gold in what's called the Everett Mining District in Newfoundland. For about 8 years. The project basically kicked off about 10 years ago. Production has averaged about 16,000 ounces a year, roughly around plus or minus $25 million a year in revenue. And then for this year, we're looking to do about almost 18,000 ounces a year for the year. So that's been our primary flagship asset for the last 8 years since I've been on board at Anaconda. We have a full-scale mill there making a doré bar. We do about 1,300 tons a day in ore processing. And we have tailings capacity for about 15 years. And we have an operating port where we've actually used it to ship out our mine waste rock as a construction aggregates product. So that's the main project. To the east of there's an exploration area we call Tilt Cove, where we've got some properties. It's in an area called the Nugget Pond Horizon, which is a historic area that's had high-grade gold production. The old Nugget Pond mine, which produced at about 11 grams per ton. So that's kind of where we're focused in Newfoundland on the Everett Peninsula. Then down in Nova Scotia, we have our project called Goldboro. We acquired it last May 2017 from Oryx Exploration. So we're kind of fairly new to the project. We only had it for about almost a year and a half. But it's in development. We have been doing a lot of drilling on it. Completed about 12,000 meters of drilling to date, and now are embarking on another 10,000 meters. We've done a PEA, which came out in January, where it called for about 41,000 ounces a year of production for about 9 years. So we're looking to begin production in 2021, pre-production in 2020. So between the two, we're looking at some pretty high growth trajectory, trying to reach the 50 to 60,000 ounce per year range when Goldboro comes online. We've got a pretty large mineral resource portfolio in Atlantic Canada as well. Between those two projects, we have over 1 million ounces of gold, about 650,000 ounces in measured and indicated, and over 400,000 ounces in inferred resources. So our focus is on these two main areas. We're also looking for other projects to try to be a catalyst to go to 100,000 ounces a year in production down the road. So we think we're pretty well positioned for that. We're in Atlantic Canada, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia. They're great, stable, low-risk mining jurisdictions. So we're happy that we're in this part of the world. We do have some exploration projects that are outside of these two main areas on the northern peninsula of Newfoundland, and right now there's about 600,000 ounces there, mostly of inferred resources. And we're actually right now working on some strategic alternatives to sort of unlock some value there, because they basically sit on our balance sheet unnoticed. So that's the sort of the big picture of who Anaconda is. We've got a tremendous team. We've been working together for a long period of time. We've got a lot of experience in Atlantic Canada across engineering, geology, operations, a lot of experience working with the governments. So our permitting background is really good as well. So we've got all the pieces of the puzzle in place for an operating company And we've got a platform with our infrastructure and our track record. Now we're just looking to grow that.
Well, here's what I like about your company that came on my radar about 2 or 3 months ago. And correct me if my metrics are wrong. Your market cap's around $23 million. You guys will probably finish up the year somewhere around $30 million in revenues. You just did your second quarter revenues of $7.4 million. Cash flow of that was $2.9 million. Where did the 4,303 ounces, which project did that come out of?
That's all out of our Point Rouge project in Newfoundland. So that's the area where we've been producing for about 8 years. So yeah, you're right. Some of the numbers, we're probably pushing in Canadian dollars close to 30 million in revenue this year. Our market cap in US dollars is as he says, is probably around the low 20s, but more than mid 30s in Canadian dollars. We kind of operate in Canadian dollars, so I always think that way. But no matter how you look at it, it's a company that's cash flowed very well at the Point Rouge project for many, many years. Certainly all the operating working capital came out of the operation. We never had to raise money in order to fund our working capital. Any capital that we've been raising over the last couple of years is all for growth capital. So it's been a nice cash flowing engine. And we're looking to continue that as well, and then add on Goldboro.
I wanted to talk about your growth strategy. In 2017, you guys was a negative 3 cents per share. You kind of turned that around. We're going in the right direction. This quarter, 2018, we was minus 1 cent. How are we going to get to a positive cash flow on that? And what is your growth strategy?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that we obviously recognize and know is that, and I'm sure the market knows this too, is that the mining business, you need to scale, and we're trying to build a scale. And I think when the scale comes, you'll start to see it hit the bottom line. We've certainly been able to generate a lot of cash, but now from an accounting perspective, the net income will come with the larger scale. Our growth strategy is focused on Atlantic Canada. We kind of see the region as an area that's ripe for consolidation from a gold perspective. There's several projects in the region that have NI 43-101 resources on them, but they don't have the adequate financial resources or human resources really to advance them. They kind of need a catalyst to renew those projects, and we feel like we can be that because we are an established gold producer. We've got all the infrastructure, the people. It's just us and Atlantic Gold in Atlantic Canada that are actually producing gold at this time, that are in commercial production. And we've been the only ones for the last 8 years. Atlantic Gold just came into commercial production. So, we feel we've got a competitive advantage to be able to go out there and consolidate some of these properties. And a lot of properties in Atlantic Canada are sub-1 million ounce projects, right? It's just, we've been off the beaten path for so long, that self-fulfilling prophecy of there's no gold in this region, so there's no money that's put into it. But once you put money into it, you find gold. I mean, I think just to digress, I think Marathon Gold is a perfect example of that. When I started off at Anaconda about 8 years ago, I believe they had about 500,000-600,000 ounces in their mineral resource portfolio, and now they're over 3 million. And it's because they raised capital and they invested in it, and they continue to find more ounces in the ground in Newfoundland. And it's no surprise that there's it's been sort of a rush to Newfoundland of late in the last probably year and a half, with a lot of staking going on, a lot of new companies coming in, because the gold is there, it just needs to be found. So that investment needs to happen. And so being one of the ones on the earlier part of this, we're looking at those projects that already have established resources, but under 1 million ounces. So they're certainly under the radar of the mid-tier folks and certainly the larger tier guys. So these are projects that can make money. I mean, I think Goldboro is a great example. What we did there was it was under 1 million ounces. We bought it last May 2017. We've demonstrated the fact through 12,000 years of drilling that the resource, the deposit can expand. and we've immediately put it into development because we had the resources to do so, and there was a large enough size deposit to justify doing that. And now it's a development project. Before it was just kind of dormant, and now it's growing. So we're looking for other projects like that where we can kind of flip it into a development stage sooner rather than later. Also, areas where projects where there may be a small amount of ounces on the books, but it's got a lot of potential, and then there's certainly other areas within Atlantic Canada that have that. So, we're going to basically try to acquire them when they're under the radar, and then do all the work to sort of put them on the radar. So that's kind of our strategy for consolidating Atlantic Canada. We don't want every project. We certainly want projects where we can leverage our knowledge and our experience, and to the extent we can, our operating infrastructure. But we'll also evaluate things on a standalone basis as well. But that's where we're focused.
My guest today is Dustin Angelo. He is the CEO of Anaconda Mining, Inc. You can find him on the TSX under the ticker symbol ANX. You also can find him on the OTC under the ticker symbol ANXGF. And closing this up and everything, what do you think the catalyst will be for your stock for the next 6 or 12 months?
So I think there's a couple things going on in the company that I think will certainly gain the attention of the investors out there. Is at Goldboro, we are starting another 10,000 meter drill program. We raised about $4.5 million in flow-through financing in June, and so we're putting that money to work with 10,000 meters at Goldboro to start. So you'll see a lot of news flow over that over the next 6 to 12 months. Also, we just announced a bulk sample at Goldboro as well. So we're doing a 10,000 ton bulk sample, and that should be all the mining and processing. Most likely will be wrapped up by the end of the year, and then there'll be some time for the analysis. So we'll probably see those results in the early part of 2019. And then at Point Roost too, we continue to drill there as well with the flow-through financing that we just had. So we're doing about a 5,000 meter drill program there. We have 3 main targets that are basically 4.5 kilometers from the mill is our main one. We're working on expanding our latest deposit called Argyle. Then we're also just drilling off to the southwest of our first pit, Pine Cove. And then we're going to drill on the northern end of our property package. So we got 3 main targets, and those results will probably be out in the fall. So you'll probably see, some rolling results for Goldboro and Point Roost throughout the fall and into early part of next year, and in the early part of next year, the bulk sample results as well. And there'll be other types of news throughout that period as well on the finance side with our typical quarterly financials. And we are working on some other interesting, innovative ideas and research projects that kind of separate us as well. So you may see some news on those as well.
Well, Dustin, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you on here. For my listeners, if you're looking to get into the gold mining business, this is my opinion. This stock is very, very undervalued. Go and pick some up. It's around 22 cents a share. Again, you can find it on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol ANXGF. Also, if you're up in Canada, you can find it on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol ANX. I wish you nothing but continued success, Dustin. Hopefully you'll come back on the show 40 or 50 days and give us an update.
That sounds great. Much appreciated.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire, LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are those of the guests and those of the respective companies they represent, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Uptick Newswire. Uptick Newswire encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of this program may have paid for its distribution and are not directly affiliated with Uptick Newswire or this station.